another episode of Cash Rules with Nick Gilmour. My name is Nick Foley, and I'm the one that's going to be interviewing this badass individual. How you doing, Nick?
Good, man. Yourself?
I don't know. I just kind of swore on camera. It's the first time. It's not like me, man. So you're wearing off on me. I'll leave the swearing to you. But hey, listen, I'm excited to get into it this week with you. I know we've had a couple of episodes that were a lot of fun for me to do the new learning and ask some questions. And I know that you're a wealth of knowledge. So how about I ask you a few questions about the topics for this week, and you can share with our listeners, the great insights that you provide weekly. Is you up for that again?
I can't wait.
All right, brother. So listen, one of the topics that I thought were really interesting when I was doing some research and things was a couple things. I'm not going to say both of them right now, but I'm going to talk about being relentless. And the reason why I asked that question is because one of the common themes that I've seen in my life with successful entrepreneurs, people like yourself, other mentors, coaches, things like that, people that I know in my life, business people, they have this undeniable pursuit of being relentless for what it is that they want. So, question for number one for you is this: what does it mean to be relentless in your life?
I think that's a characteristic that is a non-negotiable in any entrepreneur's life. So something that at least everybody at some point or another is always faced with adversity, be it in business and your personal life, both, whatever. These things always happen, and it's uncomfortable and terrible circumstances surround it. And it defines us as a person, really, how we come through it and what we do. And in business especially, there's things that happen, and this is a guarantee. Listen, any business owner, any entrepreneur, any aspiring entrepreneur, listen, this is going to happen. Things are going to happen that are going, like, every day. There's something every single day for me that doesn't go right. I'm not saying colossal fucking craziness, but things happen that aren't as planned. Okay? But that's totally all right, because you learn to roll with these punches and navigate through. But it's a non-negotiable being able to deal with them. So how you deal with these small adversities and large adversities defines you and defines your business as successful or not. And I think that unless, somebody can teach me otherwise, which I would welcome that learning, it needs to happen.
So two-part question here. How would you define being relentless? So define a person, a characteristics of a relentless person. What are some of the attributes they have?
Stick-to-itiveness, the ability to, continue when things don't feel good and things don't. It's like if you start a new fitness regimen, you're not going to be buffed overnight, or you're not going to lose weight overnight, or whatever your goal may be. It's not going to happen right away, but you stick with it and you continually do the same thing, your routine. It's a proven routine. You continue to do it. That's huge. That's the most important thing. Obviously, education, learning, asking peers, asking colleagues, other people in business, other entrepreneurs is important, because, most times if they're seasoned or if they're veteran entrepreneurs, they've been through things. So they're able to teach us, So that characteristic would be like somebody who's coachable. So that's another big one. And obviously you need the work ethic. So that's going to be my number 3, work ethic, because if you don't have work ethic in business, it's going to be a tough go for you, and you may or may not get fucking lambasted.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that really stuck out is in number 2. You talk about education and learning. What are some of the learning attributes? And what I mean by that, Nick, is what are some of the questions and things that people should, young entrepreneurs, business people that are not necessarily young, but like in the game early, should be asking mentors and coaches and people that are in that realm? What are some of the questions that you asked in order to be, in order to curve your learning curve?
Who do I want around me? Who do I need around me? So as somebody getting into business, you need to surround yourself with a team, who are skilled in areas that you're not. And I don't mean like necessarily employees and people who are who work for you or work direct for your around you. So your accountant, your bookkeeper are two super important people. And these were the questions I asked. Who do I surround myself with? Who do I need on my team to succeed? So a lot of the time they'd say an accountant, something you and I have spoke about. Like that's so important. And you think, oh well, I'm too small, or I only do this much revenue, so I don't need these things. But you're never too small for a good accountant. And just anything in regards to business. I asked every single question, which if I perceived it as a stupid question, not a stupid question, I asked them all because I wanted to know. And some of them, they weren't beneficial to what I was doing, but they helped me in the long run as I grew and as I got bigger. So there's no stupid question, but just ask any and all questions to the right people.
Yeah, no, I really like that. That's it's really good insight there. And it's interesting for our learners because that's something that you can control. And here's what I mean by that. Our listeners, they may not have the same net worth, they may not have the same, business experience that you have, or their colleagues and friends, but it doesn't cost anything to surround yourself with good people. It doesn't cost anything to ask yourself some good questions, right? And what you've always, for as long as I've known you, you've always struck me as a guy who just wants to learn, but not only learning, but about taking action. And sometimes when you take action, you get lambasted, you get your ass kicked in the game of life. So I'd like you to share with us, just because I want to pull back the curtain a little bit today, Nick, is tell us about a time where in your business career you took a bit of a whooping and you were being, but the attribute of being relentless came back. And I'd love to hear some of those stories.
Yeah. So this example, I think I've told you about this before, but this example stands out in my mind. It was a huge learning lesson for me because of how much it cost. So we were going into a deal in which we were purchasing some real estate. Believe it or not, real estate. So yeah, we were going. The deal was about $2 million, and there was it was for some student rentals. So I had planned for this, and this was a while ago. So we were just kind of getting going, right? And I never ever, something I had never done prior to this and up till this particular time when I got smoked, was plan for all your small costs or soft costs or anything involved around the project. So basically what I had done was, okay, I need $2 million. Go to the bank. Okay, they're going to fund this much, so I got to come up with this much. Figure that part out. And then, that's all fine and dandy. Then I get the lawyer calls you typically the day before and says, bring a check for X amount of dollars because of the lawyer's fees, your down payment and land transfer tax and all that other bullshit. So they tell me the amount. And the amount that they tell me is like not including the down payment portion of it, like an extra, I don't know, 80 grand, 90 grand. It was almost $100,000. And I'm thinking like, holy fuck, what did I get myself into? Because now you have one day to find 100 grand. And, like me or like anybody who is an entrepreneur, typically they have their money, making money elsewhere. So it's not like I have all this liquid capital just ready to, woo, okay, here's an extra $100,000 that I've got sitting around in a safe. So I moved some stuff around and I was able to access the capital. But it was an expensive lesson because it cost me money to get that money. And, you know, it I'm glad it happened because I learned from it. It'll never, ever, ever happen again. But it sucked. And it was it was right when my brother he hadn't come on, but he was close. And this is something like he's very, very methodical in terms of how he plans, how he has, every penny accounted for in a deal. And, I got smoked there. And then coupled with his experience in larger deals and these extra costs, I changed my approach a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it sounds to me your approach was, like you said, surrounding yourself with people who know, and surrounding yourself with, your brother, bringing him into the business, and coupling that with you. So I'm curious, what are some of your biggest attributes as opposed to the partners in the Gilmour group? And the reason why I asked that, Nick, is I think it's important for our listeners to know, that you don't have to be all things to all people. So what are some of the things you're great at, and what are some of the things that that part of the Gilmour group that you're not so great at, that maybe your brother picked up the slack, or whoever else you have in the corporation?
So me personally, customer service, obviously that's huge in our business. In the retail portion of it, customer service is number one. And without the customer and without the community around that supports us, we don't exist. So I think that's a skill and an attribute that is overlooked oftentimes, because people think that maybe it's not as important in whatever industry they're in because they're not face to face, but there's always some type of a customer interaction in business. So customer service is one of my specialties. Networking is probably another one and that goes hand in hand with customer service. So I have the ability to talk to people, to meet people, to kind of operate on the same wavelength as different individuals, depending on what we're speaking about and what the way they'd like to be spoken to. And there's just different ways to interact, and there's different people who speak on that, but I think that's something that I've done well at. Things I'm not. Oh, and teeing up deals, obviously. It's one of my favorite things to do, and that's teeing up deals is another one of my strong points. To the point where I can tee them up and they're like piled fucking high. And Jordan's like, dude, like we need to get the ball rolling on some of these. So I don't mean we're leaving things on the back burner, but things come to movers and shakers, and things come to people who are in the realm of these deals. And I'm in the realm of these deals because I meet people, I know people, I put myself in that realm. And then they come to you and the opportunities come to you, and you need to seize the good ones and get the shitty ones out of your way.
Question then about that before, and I do want to hear about the things that you're not good at, but this is a real opportunity for learning here, I think, for our listeners. Walk us through how a person tees up a deal, and walk us through the process of how that comes together. Because Nick, you have several deals, and I know you personally, we're friends, so without disclosing too much information, I know you have a lot of things going on, right? How do you, if that's one of customer service, which you did read a great article about that, by the way, and how it's dead. So I'd like to see, and I know we're just using different words, so we'll get back to that as well. I'll table that one in a second. Talk to us about how to tee up a deal and what that looks like, and why you're so good at that, and what that brings to you.
Yeah. So number one, you need to be hungry, but you need to not be overly persistent. So everybody in the deal, and this, people will argue, and guaranteed there's going to be 100 people who say something comment below and hang out in the comments, as you say, after I say this. But the deal's got to make sense on both sides. Okay. So Kevin O'Leary, for example, who's getting tagged in this after I say it, he always says a good deal is when both sides lose. I disagree. Both sides need to feel like they win, and both sides need to win, because a lot of my deals have happened with the same people. So recurring things happening with the same people, not the same deal, different deals with the same person. And, if you get 3 or 4 of these people times 10 deals each, things, these are when things start to accumulate. So teeing up deals, surrounding yourself in this group, surrounding yourself with these people, getting to know these people. Where do I want to do? I want to grow in real estate. Okay. Who is the mover and shaker in real estate? Where do I find them? I've sent messages on Instagram, just looked up people who own a lot of real estate. Hey, my name's Nick. Just wanted to introduce myself. If you ever have time for a chat, let me know. To this day, I still do that because it's important and it's how I network. And it also shows whoever I'm messaging that I'm not just some donkey who's, I want to get rich and I want to be in real estate and, I want to own a bunch of rental properties, but I really don't know how to do it. They know that I can communicate with them and say, hey, I'd love to listen. I'd love to listen, which brings me to my next fucking point. Nobody can fucking listen nowadays. Everybody is thinking about what they're going to say next instead of just stop fucking talking and listen. Absorb the information. I went to and I told you about this. I went to a kind of a getaway retreat, and there was a guy there and he couldn't shut his fucking mouth. He just talk. And the second he would stop talking and you would say something, you could tell that he was thinking about what he wanted to say next. He's like, I can't help it. It's a habit. I don't know. I can't stop it. And I said, okay, do this. Speak, then stop. Then I'll speak. Then replay what I said. Say what I said in your mind so that it really sticks with you, and then truly engage in that correspondence and that conversation based on what I say, and then I'll answer based on what you say. And that's how you converse, which is an art form which is dying rapidly. So being able to listen, you know what? I'm going to put that right up there. Almost the most important thing.
It's interesting, and I think that's such a great it's great dialogue here because talking about listening. So many people ask questions with the intent to hear an answer that they want to reply to, right? And I know a few people that just like your colleague or your associate that you saw at this retreat that just do that. They just talk, and they have no intention of listening, right? In your opinion, Nick, how important is communication when it comes to brokering these deals? How important is it when it comes to teeing these deals up so that both sides, as you put it, feel as though they win? Because if you're losing all the time, you're not apt to go out and get some more deals. So I understand your mindset. I like that. I like that because I think that it's and I think our listeners can relate to that you're not going to have the perfect deal every single time. You got to get that sense that you're both going to win. So how do you have a win-win and use listening or communication in order to do that?
You need to understand the other party's motivation for the deal. So if I'm buying a house and you're selling a house, and real estate agents fucking love this. And any of you guys watching, and you know which ones I love, I continue to love you, but you'll laugh when I say this because I've said it to all of you. They always say never let the vendor and the vendor and who's buying it or the purchaser talk. Don't let them talk because the deal will go kapooey. And sometimes that's true, okay? When you have like first time home buyers and people who are married to their house, and when they're not in a deal situation that it's for business. But when it's a business deal, I like to understand the motivations of the other party, because then you can really, you know what makes that deal tick, and you know what it's going to take to get it done. So if you're selling a house and I want to buy it, and I know that you need to sell to buy another house. It's just an random example, okay? So if I know that, okay, great. So I know that it's not only time sensitive that you need to sell the house, but there's a number you need to get in order for you to get that other house, okay? So I'm looking at this deal, and I'm understanding you need to sell a house to buy another house. So what's the first thing that's going to come to my mind? He'll probably take below asking. Okay, so it's hard to know what somebody owes on something or what's owed against it, but trying to find that number, what's a fair number, because you don't want to steal anything. That's not business either. You don't want to just screw over people constantly to win. But I mean, making the deal work for me and for you, Nick. I'm going to understand your side. I'm going to understand what's motivating you in that deal. And when I do understand that, it allows me to present things to you more in a more beneficial manner. It makes the correspondence more valuable. Or, for example, if you built this house and you raised your children in it, and your kids are all moved away to school, and you and your wife, it was your first house you built, and blah blah blah, and it's sentimental. You're tied to that house, but you want to sell it because you want to downsize. So right there, I'm going to know, okay, so I'm not going to say anything or pick apart any type of upgrades that's been done by that family, because it will insult them, and it is immediately going to turn off the deal. So I will understand, maybe if there are some upgrades that I think make they reasons why I would offer less for the property, because there's no granite countertops, or there's no hardwood floors or whatever. I might not present it in a way that I'm asking for money off the deal because of that, but I might try and present it a different way to keep you optimistic about the deal. And a good real estate agent can do this, but most of them will just talk back and forth between each other and try and get the deal done. And they don't give a shit about the seller or the buyer.
Talk about that then. What's your interpretation of real estate agents when it comes to real estate buying? I'd love to hear it.
Well, I mean, and I've gone off on this before, and everybody, I'm glad to share the real estate agents who have done me right and who have represented their buyers or their sellers or whoever ethically and properly, and gotten good deals for them. I got very vocal about who I deal with, and they're amazing. And they're examples of good real estate agents. But I don't want to put a percentage of how many of them suck, to be blunt, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And I see it constantly. Like, they just want to, and I tell you the example with me, where I could hear my agent talking to the other agent about getting the deal done, but he had it on his car phone. And I heard it through, I was standing outside of the car, but I could hear it. And the other guy said, let's just get the deal done. What's it going to take to get the deal done? What will your guy pay? And he told them what the seller would sell it for. And it's just so disgusting that people would, like, these are people's lives you're dealing with. It's not like, it's some, in most cases, somebody's house is the biggest investment they'll ever have. And a lot of real estate agents are in it for themselves, and it's disappointing. But, and this makes this following statement even more important, aligning with a good real estate agent is valuable. It's a must, because they will look after you to the bitter end.
I like that. And it's interesting, right? Because you don't need, like you said, like we talked about this, we touched on it last week, and I know we got a bit of a storm. You don't need 100 bankers. You just need the one that works best for you. You don't need 100 real estate agents. You just need the one that works best for you. Same goes for lawyers. And I think that's the human element of business. What's the human element of business mean to you? Bringing in that human element, because you touched upon it in your answer here when you talked about, these are people's lives. Why is being, human so important?
Well, number one, and this is something I don't talk about very often, but being a good person is important. And it's actually more important than anything else in life. It's more important than business. It's more important than success, whatever that is to you. It's more important than anything. Being a good person is the foundation and part of the fundamentals of business. Because if you're a dick who rips people off, or somebody who's trying to, get the best deal all the time, and really not giving a rat's ass about other people, that's fine. And I know tons of guys like that. But I see them for who they are. I see them. If you see people for who they are, you don't ever have to worry about judging people. You see a snake for a snake. You see a rat for a rat. You see, so you see things for who, and people for who they are. And if somebody was constantly ripping people off, then you know that. Then you go into the deal with that kind of in your tool belt. But it's, you've got to be a good person, and people know that. People know that I'm a good person, and they know that I have good intentions, and they know I'm loyal. So the people I deal with know they're never going to get screwed over. And I think that's important, and that is the human element, the connections that you make in business. Because I'm certainly not here because I'm just so great at everything. Like, I'm mediocre at like a couple things, and then like that's it. But I was able to find the right people and learn, and those people took the chance and the time investment on me. And I listened. Unlike a lot of people, I shut my fucking mouth and I listened. And when I listened, I learned. And that's how I got to where I am. But if you are in a room, like, I've had so many people ask for advice. How do I do this? How do I do that? And you get like 5 seconds in and they start talking. And it's like, why are you talking? Am I here to learn from you? Because I don't give a fuck what you're saying. I've got 10 million more important things to do right now than talk to you. But I'm doing it as a favor for you. So.
Yeah, and that's pretty profound insight, Nick. And here's the reason why I say that is because at the top of our program today, you talked about the importance of networking and being around mentors and people of business. If you're a good person, that becomes easier, doesn't it?
Huge, man. Like, people want to deal with you. People want to do things with you. That's why we deal together. I know obviously I knew you from Belleville, where we came from, but there's an age difference where we didn't go to school together and we didn't play sports together or any of that stuff. So we were drawn together by similar interests, and the fact that we're good people. You were constantly putting out this content of, how to better yourself and how to help, and the 20K sock day, and all this stuff that, like, when you see stuff on social media, you just kind of scroll past it. But when you see it again and see it again and see it again, it's like, okay, what's this guy about? Why is he doing this? What is the reason? Because there's so few good people in life that, you know, it's like when you see somebody truly doing something. I don't mean few good people in life. I mean, you don't see it. Okay, so it's not in front of your face all the good that's happening all the time. There's a bunch of shitty stuff you see on the news and hear about. So when you see these good things, that's like, holy, like it pulls your attention. And that's how we were drawn together. And I hope that's kind of, that what you saw in me, and the 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 time that I wanted to spend helping you in real estate and answering a couple small questions that I was able to, because that was my karma, and people had done the same for me, and I owed that to the world to pay it forward. And I think I did that.
Yeah,
And
well,
we'll
you have
continue to.
twofold. Yeah, absolutely, you have, and that's the thing, Nick. And I mean, and I appreciate the kind words, and the same sentiment going in your direction. That's what you see. I saw the scrolling. I scroll through social media and I'd see it pop up on my algorithms, however the hell that works. And you're doing great things, right? You're out there and you're coming from that angle of, I just want to serve, and I just want to help people. And I felt comfortable enough to, watching your content, listening to your podcast, things like that, enough to ask you, some questions here and there. And you were always so valuable, or so gracious with your time. But one of the things that's so true is it's about listening. You wrote an interesting article, just kind of popped into my brain, where you said customer service is dead. And I know we talked about customer service, and you said that's what you would, but give an understanding to the audience what you mean by customer service, because I know for you personally, you wrote this wonderful article in Inc. magazine, what magazine was it? Entrepreneur magazine, and you talked about customer service being dead, but not to the sense that people think when they're hearing that. I want you to explain that and about relationships and why that's important.
So the traditional idea of customer service to most people is, that'll be $10, please. Would you like a bag? Here you go. Have a good day. Customer service to me, and in today's age, is relationships. And that whole article was based on creating relationships with each customer. If I go into our stores, I know the customers, unless they're new or they just started coming in or whatever. I know people. I know probably, I would hazard a guess I would say 90% of the customers who come into our stores, and we have a lot of customers. We're fortunate enough to have a lot of customers come in. I would say I know 90% of their names. Like if I stand at the door, I will be able to call 90% of the people by name at Belleville or Kingston, Harrowsmith, whatever, because I've taken the time to engage these relationships, which are key to the success of a business. And I knew that from an early age. I knew that from my parents, and watching them in business and them work so hard. And I made it a point to do that over and above anyone I know. I know guys who do well, but they don't do it as well as me, because I care. I truly care. The relationship and the customer and the service is bigger than the business or the money or anything else. And the customer service, and that encompasses your employees, because as a leader, you have the service, or you're giving service to them, and you provide for them. Give them a safe place to work, give them a comfortable place to work, give them the tools they need to to feel confident when they're performing their jobs, and be there for them if they need you. These things are really important to me. And I think that, like I was the title, it was a clickbait, and it was just so people get them in so they could read it, because I thought of how valuable it was. But you got to be there. You've got to be there, and I mean that in terms of, obviously it's figuratively speaking, but you do need to be there in the early stages, 7 days a week, like I was. But you've got to be there for the customer. You got to be there for the community. You got to be there for your employees at all times. And I think, in fact, I know, that's why we've been able to be in business for 10 years, and we will continue to be in business for another 110.
So do you think that a customer, can you be a good boss or a bad boss and a good customer service represent, like a good, and have good customer service? Or do they go hand in hand? If you're a good boss, you're going to have good relationship.
No, they don't. Because you can be a prick to your employees and one way to your customers. So, hey Nick, how you doing? How's your brother? How's John? How's your dad doing? Good. And then, you leave, and then I turn around and treat, one of the employees like dog shit. Like, or speak down to them. Like, that's the other thing. I'm a leader, and there's employees for the businesses, but we're a team. I'm not up here and they're down here. Ever. We are a unit, and together we move forward. And I never, ever forget that. I never take it for fucking granted. So yeah, totally. Or you can be vice versa. You can think, that employees you're taking care of them really well, and you've got your all your internal housekeeping looked after. It's a great place to work, but the customer is getting ignored, literally. And that doesn't work either, because then they won't come back, and then nobody has a fucking job. So, no, to answer your question.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. So I'm interested in what you just said there, leading from within. We all go there together. Explain to me what you mean by that, and explain to our audience what you mean by that, Nick, because I do feel, there's been some great literature on it and things, but I do feel it's such it'd be great to get your insights on what it means to lead within the organization, not on top, or not from the front, like, oh, look at me, but within as a team. You've really created a great culture there. Explain that.
Well, in society, especially, there's this hierarchy of people. Like, I'm going to live in the nicest house, and I'm better than all my friends, and look at all this flashy shit we have on the internet, and I'm going to post a picture of my Rolex. And don't get me wrong, everybody likes to have nice things. I like to have nice things. Everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people like to have nice things, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when that mentality translates into the workplace, so I'm the boss and everybody works for me because I'm the fucking man, that doesn't work. That's not being a good person. That is not being a good person. And everybody who works for you will think you're the biggest fucking dick in the world, because you are. So leading from within, leading together as a unit. The unit needs direction, and that's where the leader comes in to give the unit direction. But it's different people handle different things. You have managers of departments or managers of whatever, people who handle things, and you have kind of managers and internal leaders of different groups to keep things organized. But ultimately, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I truly believe in that. So if there's somebody who's not cutting it, The first thing that somebody who is just a big dick in the office and thinks they're, going to walk all over everybody, but they might fire them. Whereas our approach, or my approach, would be, how can we help you get better? What do you need from me? What do you need from me to get better? How do I help you? What do you need? And you try and put people in seats where they're going to succeed, where they're going to excel and where they're going to really feel good about how they what job they're doing. And I think if you can nail down on a couple of those things, then you're going to put yourself and your business in a pretty good position. But take the ego out of it, and like you had said, ego is the enemy, I believe.
Yeah.
Ego
Ryan
is
Holiday.
the enemy.
Yeah, that's a great. It's a great book. I would insist on any leader, any entrepreneur to read that. You touched upon watching your parents and stuff when it comes to leading within. Is there anybody in particular, Nick, that you learned that from, or is it just experience over the several years that you've been in business?
Whew. So many people. That's a tough one, man. Every great entrepreneur who I've met does that, and that's how they lead. So there's too many to name, but obviously from an early age, my dad, my mom, they work 7 days a week forever. Like, they still work all the time, and that work ethic was drilled into me, because it's not the norm, and it's not for everybody either. So I'd have to say my parents, for sure, would be like kind of the first little taste I had of it. And there was no job that we wouldn't do. So, for example, cleaning the grease traps at the stores is like an awful, terrible job. But I did it, and I would never expect anybody who worked for us or worked for me, or whatever location or store you're talking about, or timeline, where if I was a kid, but I wouldn't expect somebody who works there to do something that we wouldn't do. So we worked 7 days a week. We cleaned the grease traps. We served customers. We cleaned at the end of the day. We opened. We did it all. So there was nobody could say, well, these guys are just getting rich. Because in small business, number one, you don't get rich in small business. You work your ass off to build somewhat of a retirement. And number two, we were in the mud. We were there doing it. So if that's not leading from within, then, and if that wasn't ingrained into my mind from an early age, then I don't know what the fuck was.
Yeah, well, no, it's great. I mean, and I think that provides some really interesting and profound insights to our listeners about that. So at the beginning of the presentation earlier, getting of our dialogue here, you talked about some of your strengths. What are some of your weaknesses, and what have you done to combat against that, mitigate those weaknesses?
How much time do we have? Organization. Organization is a big one for me. That's probably number one for me, because I am like, I can't stop thinking about ways to grow and new opportunity and ways to make the business better and all these different things I'm always thinking about. So, okay, I understand this about myself through self-reflection, through Life of Cadence, and things that you have taught me in terms of how do I understand what's going on up here and get my mind right. I don't mean I'm crazy, but I mean understand me as a person, because we're all different. So I know that I'm not good at organization. I sure as hell can tee up a fucking deal, but try to get me to tee up a fucking 9 a.m. fucking meeting and put it in Apple fucking meetings or whatever calendar, I'm fucked. So getting these things in place, and that is a real example. I'm giving you guys a real example because that just happened. I literally talked to Nick about it, and he gave me the tools and the connection of somebody who's fucking really good at that. And then, so I've implemented that into my daily life, which has been a game changer. So I understood that organization wasn't good, and I acted on it. So mitigation and number one. Number two, there's so many, man. There's so many things. A lot of it surrounds organization. Tons and tons and tons of it surround organization. I would say maybe not thinking things like this, like the example I gave you with the $100,000, the oversight, $100,000 oversight on the $2 million deal. That was a big one. So I see the big picture. I see the macro constantly. So I see where we're going. I know, like I'm looking at it all the time, and we're constant. I am running full fucking speed. I am running top speed like a sprint towards where we're going. And now I'm getting hit in the face with like fucking bugs, and fucking people are trying to pass me water, and I'm drinking half of it. So the micro sometimes gets missed, but 1,000 small micros, Nick, equal a macro. And that's why we cannot miss the micros. And that's why partnering with my brother, I talk about this all the time. People are probably like, who the fuck is this guy? He's never on here. But he's the king of the micro because he will dial in every detail. And when it comes to bringing the check to that fucking lawyer, I already know that it's going to be $99,682.25 because Jordan fucking said it. So I'll write the check in before they even call. And that is another example of me sucking, ignoring the micro. And I don't mean to the extent that it's detrimental to our business, but I mean, you miss some details that are important, and especially as your organization grows and gets bigger, because I've missed that fucking $100,000 on deals before, but it was only like $2 or $3 grand. So it didn't register.
Right.
But then when the $100,000 one, that sure fuck registered.
Yeah. Well, and but then it was such a, it is such a lesson in what we've talked about today about learning, right? And you learn from it. And not only that, but you and your brother decided to go into business together and do things the way that you do things, which is great. I know that we're here we got to be cognizant of your time, Nick, but I got to ask you, how do you fight for success in your business now? What does that mean to you?
Fighting for success in my business. Fighting for success is an everyday occurrence. So I wake up every day and it's a battle. It's like you're in a boxing match every day. And your opponent is life. And your opponent is circumstance that you come up against. And are you going to get beat or are you going to win? And these little battles occur every day. And they occur every single day on your journey to whatever your success looks like. And if your success is like elite level of business, then right now I'm kind of speaking your language. So listen up. These little battles, you might not win them all. And as a matter of fact, you will not win them all. But as long as you win most of them and you win the big ones, that's what counts. And that's what creates your legacy. And that is what leads you to success. And the second that you stop training, okay, or you stop eating right, or you stop focusing on this battle that's in front of you or this boxing match that's in front of you, the second that leaves your mind and you think, I'm good, you are going to get knocked the fuck out by life. I guarantee it. I promise you. So never lose that hunger. Stay hungry all the time. Stay hungry. Doesn't matter how small the battle. Go into it like you're fighting fucking Andre the Giant. And maybe you'll maul the fucking battle. But at least you're ready.
Well, it sounds to me like it's you. If you can win the battle, and I'll give you like from what I understand from what you just said. If you can win the battle between the ears, that's the ticket, right? Everything else will fall into place.
And that's what I'm learning, and that's still a battle with me. Like I've got the stuff that a lot of other people don't have figured out down to a science, i.e. working all the time, i.e. connections, networking, communication. These are my specialties. But understanding what my work-life balance is, okay? And that doesn't mean like you can work 7 days a week and have a work-life balance. It's not what fucking Khloe Kardashian's work-life balance looks like. And it's not what, work-life balance looks like to a teacher who has 4 kids and a husband and likes to travel. But my work-life balance, what does work-life balance look like to me? And that's why you teach me that. And it's not like it's going to click overnight. And the sheets and what you and I have just set up, put me on that program, how beneficial that is to me, understanding where I need to focus my time in order to realize a success or realize a gain in different areas. And, that's a perfect example. Look at how I just spoke. Realizing a gain in terms of a relationship, using a business correlation to a relationship, because that's how my mind thinks. Is that right? I don't know, but you're going to teach me, right?
I think well, that's the thing, Nick. I think you're a hell of a student and teacher. And I think therein lies the truth in any kind of success when it comes to business and in life. The student needs to be the teacher and the teacher needs to be the student. What are your thoughts on that?
It's profound, dude. Like, I mean, as a teacher, so looking at it from that perspective, you need to understand how your student learns, because not all two people learn the same. And we have people with learning disabilities. We have people who are born with different types of things that don't allow them to operate kind of as we would consider normal in this society. And it's not that they're not normal, it's that they learn differently and they do things differently. So as a teacher, you need to understand your audience. I've heard you say this 1,000 times, but understand the audience, understand how they learn. How do they absorb this information and this education? And I think that, as a teacher, that's where you learn, even on an individual, looking at it on an individual basis. Here's my student. I'm learning, so I'm going to teach them something, but I'm learning immediately how they learn. Okay, so now once I understand that, then I'm able to kind of approach the situation differently and give them what they need. And as a student, you need to educate your teacher on how you learn, or try to tell them at least. And I think the communication or the correspondence between the two will be smooth.
Nick, this has been a far-reaching and deep-diving conversation. And with that being said, though, I want to get your advice. So quick kind of question. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. First one is going to be about the learner. What words of advice would you give to yourself as a learner, or to anybody that's listening as a learner? What's the number one word of advice from Nick Gilmour that you would give a learner?
Listen. Listen.
Love that. And that's it. That's the sentence, right?
That's it.
Exactly. Perfect. My next question: what is the number one piece of advice you'd give the teacher?
Understand your audience. Listen to your audience. Listen to your students. And do your best to articulate your way in such a manner that they're gonna hear you. And I don't just mean hear you, but I mean hear you and understand you. And I mean, I can only what works best for me is just talking about what's worked for me. So I'm not the most polished speaker. I'm not the most best looking person. You know, I'm not dressing the Under Armour fucking shirt and a backwards hat. And, you know, I'm not out here trying to be a fucking big dick. I'm out here because this is my karma and I want to teach. So I tell people what has worked for me, and I'm authentic. And I think if you're authentic, you will help the people you need to help.
Love that. Let's put a pin in it there, my man. This has been a really, really great conversation. Cash Rules with Nick Gilmour. You've heard it here, my friends. We look forward to hearing and seeing from you all in the next episode. Get to work.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Nick.